I forgot. Here, this month's grocery money. My husband slammed a single $50 bill on the table. $50 for a month's worth of groceries for a family of 3? That's absurd. If you want to complain, just go work and earn some cash. I couldn't argue any more with my husband, who looked at me with cold eyes. My name is Lily. I'm 27. I live with my husband and daughter. I met my husband Ethan in college, and we started dating 6 months later. My mother passed away when I was still in elementary school, and I was raised in a single-parent household. I've been judged for that by some people, and never had a fiancé before. I've heard people make spiteful comments. Even my ex-boyfriend said, "I'm not marrying a child of a single parent. She probably won't be able to raise kids right." Behind my back. But Ethan was different. "Your father must be a great man to have raised such a wonderful woman like you." When he said that, tears welled up in my eyes. I was certain Ethan would always be on my side, no matter what happened. I was convinced then. After graduation, we both joined my father's company. 3 years later, Ethan and I decided to get married. I was brought up in a single-parent household, and my father has always been concerned about me. Although my father wanted Ethan to take after his business, Ethan's family strongly opposed, so we had to give up. I became Ethan's wife and moved into his family home, and so our marriage life began. Within half a year, we were blessed with a child. After that, I left my father's company. I want to start a happy home, surrounded by children. I was delighted that I was getting closer to the happy family life I had dreamed of. Little did I know that a hellish life would start after our child was born. One evening at dinner. "Hey, are you trying to upset me by serving me this nasty food? Remake this." Shocked by Ethan's voice, I tried to calm his anger while at the same time soothing our newborn crying daughter, Emma. "I'm sorry, but I ordered it from a diner, you know? It's good, right? Don't talk back. And you didn't cook it yourself. Both your housework and childcare. Do it right. Can't you stop taking your anger out on us? Why the hell are you my wife if you can't even cook a decent meal? Useless." Ethan spat out these words and then headed to his room. Why did it turn out this way? The man who was once so kind, I could find no trace of him anymore. He seemed like a different person. Ever since Emma was born, Ethan's behavior had been gradually changing. He'd get irritated at every little thing, belittle me, saying, "You can't even earn money, useless." Or, "Can't even handle being a stay-at-home wife. That's why women from single-parent families are..." And if anything upset him, he'd raise his voice. When I'd ask about his work, he'd ignore me, seeming either tired or absent-minded. After all, Ethan was the one who said he wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife, to support the household, which is why I quit my father's company in the first place. He would have an attitude and say harsh things at me, like that made him feel better. As much as I was disgusted by his attitude, knowing the hardship of being a single parent, I couldn't divorce him for Emma's sake. It seems like Ethan was doing well at work. In the midst of his hectic work schedule, he would call my father and occasionally ask for advice. But in reality, sometimes I'd look at a picture of me and my mother from my childhood that was displayed in the room, and I couldn't help but sigh. I wish I could have consulted with Mom. Living this way for 3 years. One day, I almost forgot. Here, this month's groceries. What Ethan slammed down in front of me was a single $50 bill. Feeding a family of 3 with $50 a month? That's impossible! What happened to our money? Saving up and working with the amount given is the job of a stay-at-home wife, isn't it? Since you're always at home, you should be able to use your brain and figure something out. That's impossible! Let me manage our living expenses. I can't. I have many gatherings to attend to anyway. Practically, it's only for you and Emma. So $50 should be enough, right? That's not... With that, Ethan left the room. You're such a wonderful woman. Your dad must be a really admirable person for raising you. Where did the Ethan from that time go? Or is this harsh Ethan his true self? I've often thought about running away, but I can't do it because of my daughter. The hardship of raising a child alone. Ugh, if only my mom were alive. I've contemplated divorce a few times, but the thought of burdening my daughter with a single parent overpowered that, and I could not muster the courage. However, that's not to say that I just accepted the situation and blindly followed Ethan's lead. I've asked him to increase the food budget several times, and I've also looked for work-from-home jobs and other employment opportunities behind his back. Even so, a monthly food budget of $50 does not allow me to provide decent meals for my daughter. I had been using my savings from the time I was single to supplement our monthly food budget, but there's a limit to my savings. I had been making it a priority to make sure my daughter ate nutritious meals. However, it was impossible to keep up such a grueling lifestyle of frugality, and my body finally reached its breaking point. If I collapse, who's going to take care of my daughter? Maybe I should ask my dad for help. And so I decided to call my father. But after discussing it with him, whether it was from relief or exhaustion, I immediately fell into a deep sleep on the sofa. When I suddenly woke up, the first thing I saw was my daughter's sleeping face. The trace of tears was clearly visible in her eyes. "Grandpa! Mommy's awake!" Really? That's a relief. Next, my teary-eyed father peeked in. Not understanding the situation, I stared at his face for a while. "Lily, we were really worried about you." "Dad? Where are we?" "We're in a hospital. To collapse from malnutrition in this day and age? What on earth happened?" My father was holding back tears, his words choked with emotion. He might have been crying the whole time I was asleep. My father has always been a crybaby. "I'm sorry for making you worry, but why are you here? What about work? Don't you remember? You called me for help. And when I called back because I was worried, Emma answered and told me you had collapsed. That's why I rushed over and called an ambulance." Saying that, my father gently stroked my daughter's head. "Thank you. We were saved because you told Grandpa." "I'm glad Mommy is okay." My daughter, praised by her grandfather, was all smiles. I would have never imagined my daughter Emma growing up to be such a strong individual. Perhaps she took me as a bad example to learn from. As I was deep in thought, looking at Emma, my father voiced his concern. "What happened to you, Lily? You've become so thin. Have you not been eating properly?" I tried to deflect his concern, but the seriousness in his eyes made me relent. I then confessed to him about my life with Ethan until now. "So, Ethan did this to you?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me anything?" "I didn't want to cause you any pain, Father. You were so happy when I married Ethan, and that's why." As I started to cry, my father, who took my hand, also started to shake with tears. "Lily, it hurts me more to know that you didn't feel you could tell me." The moment I heard those words from my father, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. "Father, I'm sorry." "There's no need for you to apologize. I'm always on your side, no matter what. You can always talk to me about anything." Yes. What had I been enduring all this time? If only I had confided in my father sooner, neither Emma nor I would have had to go through such hard times. I realized that in my desire not to worry Emma or my father, I had lost sight of what really mattered. My daughter couldn't possibly be happy growing up in a household filled with shouting and devoid of smiles. When my father saw the change in my expression, he said he was going to make a phone call and left the room. After a while, he came back and we talked for a good hour before Ethan arrived at the hospital. "Hey, Don't call my office for trivial matters. Ethan stormed into the room, clearly annoyed, but quickly changed his tone when he saw my father. Oh, father-in-law. On the other hand, my father was calm in the face of Ethan's rude behavior, which he had never seen at work. This is a hospital. Don't you think your loud voice might disturb the other patients? But Lily told my receptionist that she's been hospitalized due to malnutrition. Yes, I was the one who made that call. Any problem with that? Oh, was it you who made that call? Because of what you said, I got weird looks from my colleagues. Had me getting embarrassed big time. Come on now, Dad. Embarrassed? Huh. Feeling embarrassed is much better than being maltreated by your own husband, don't you think? Seeing my calm father, Ethan gets enraged even further. Lily, what are you babbling about? This is a family matter. Emma trembled, but my father gently held her into his arms. Ethan clearly didn't care about her presence. Perhaps he probably didn't even see her. Now, Ethan was going off at me, but strangely, my heart remained calm. Was it thanks to my father sitting next to me, or my daughter being there? I was able to confront my husband with an attitude that even surprised me myself. What? Are you going to hit me? Hey! You're feeling pretty bold today, aren't you? Acting all high and mighty. As I was about to snap back, my father gently restrained me and stepped in. Ethan, before you yell at my daughter, don't you think you have something to say to me? What would that be? Ethan asked back with a puzzled face. Though his veins were bulging with anger, my father continued the conversation calmly. You should be receiving a decent salary, yet you won't even feed your own daughter. What's the reason for that? What are you spending your money on? My husband fell silent. But, what are you angry about? This is just discipline. There's no problem at all. But more importantly, when will the CEO position be vacant? I'm ready to take after your business anytime. Huh? My father was at a loss for words at Ethan's ridiculous statement that revealed his true nature. Why are you surprised? As the husband of the CEO's daughter, isn't it normal that I should take over the company? And if a competent person like me becomes the CEO, our small business will grow rapidly. There's no doubt that it will prosper. Shouldn't you give me the position, right now? Ethan continued with his absurd remarks. Since my father seemed too astounded to say anything, I stepped in and said to Ethan, if someone like you becomes the CEO, his company will go bankrupt. What did you say? The moment enraged Ethan tried to raise his hand against me, my father grabbed his arm. You're fired. Huh? Didn't you hear me? I said you're fired. The company will go down if we have an employee like you. And asking me to give up the CEO position? You must be dreaming. Ethan, who was scolded by my father for the first time, stood there with his mouth left wide open. I hit Ethan with the final blow. Let's get a divorce. I don't want to be with you anymore. It's not nice to have you around my daughter either, and I don't want to trouble my father anymore. When I told Ethan I wanted a divorce, he exclaimed, Hold on a minute. If I can't become a CEO, what was the point of getting married to a woman like you? What? Your only trait is being the daughter of a CEO, right? I thought you wanted to be the successor, which is why I couldn't believe what Ethan had just said. He's changed. That's what I had thought, but it turns out he's been like this from the very beginning. Just then, my father opened the door and said, Please, come in. And Ethan's parents walked into the room. Mom? And Dad too? Why are you here? Ethan started to panic all of a sudden. My in-laws started to kneel in front of me. I told them, It's not your fault. Please lift your heads. And had them sit down. Then, with a beet red face, Ethan started to get lectured. We came as soon as we got the call. We heard from outside. What are you doing to your dear wife and child? We're disowning you. What? Then my daughter handed the divorce papers to my mother-in-law. Here you go! It seems she knew I had them in my bag all along. What the heck? How convenient, said my mother-in-law as she accepted the divorce papers and then signed and stamped them before leaving with Ethan. Please do divorce this man. As for alimony and child support, leave it to us. We'll make sure he pays. A few days later, I signed and stamped divorce papers without hesitation and went to the city hall with my father and daughter to submit them. After that, we had discussions about alimony and child support under a lawyer introduced by my in-laws. Throughout the process, Ethan acted maturely. And so it was agreed that Ethan would pay the alimony and child support in one lump sum from his savings. I said, "Well then, goodbye. Take care," and left the lawyer's office. A year has passed since then. I'm now working part-time at my father's company. You're more competent than that man, Lily. You being here is a great help, my father said, and considering our future, I decided to work only during daycare hours. Me being quick at working on accounting calculations, people around me started to joke around, saying, "Lily's our next CEO! My daughter is really something. Should we do that?" My father keeps making these proud parent comments, but every time he does, I would say, "But then I'd have less time with my daughter, wouldn't I?" And I would laugh. Later, I had a meeting with the son of our client's CEO. The CEO of our client, a close friend of my father, said, "If my son does anything wrong, let me know. I'll definitely protect you." And he was a very nice man, so I'm considering getting married to him. I have no idea what has happened to Ethan since then. Emma is close with my in-laws, so we occasionally arrange for them to meet, but they've been kind enough to avoid bringing up Ethan. I am truly blessed by people around me. All of this is probably thanks to my father for raising me single-handedly with all his might. I can't help but feel that the picture of my mother displayed in the room is smiling too. From now on, I plan to cherish my family and live happily with my daughter. "Mama, can I have seconds?" "Of course, baby. You're eating great." My daughter happily eats her food again today. I swear that I will never let her suffer. That's my vow.